Okay, the last thing we left off yesterday, which we said we're going to continue today, that squeezing things out of a tube or out of a container is not called schita. But even though it's not called schita, because again, schita means you're extracting something which is absorbed within the thing. It's not that you put something in a container, taking it out is not called squeezing. Even though you're squeezing the tube, it's just to get it out. It's not a way that you're squeezing liquids. But there might be other issues with using tubes or cans or whatever it is. For instance, if you're talking about creams, okay, so you can't smear a cream, you can't smoothen a cream. Sometimes you have an issue with you want to squeeze detergent out of a container, so then you have the problem of cleaning. Or you want to create a good smell. So we learned, before we were learning those dinim, halachically you're allowed to create a smell on the body or in the air. But according to all opinions, you're not allowed to do it on a garment. Even though many people say you shouldn't do it in the air or on the body either to create a good smell. But if you're doing it to remove a foul odor, then there's no problem with it. So, but to spray perfume, let's say, on a garment, that would be, according to all opinions, forbidden. So sometimes you can have squeezing a perfume bottle onto a garment would be forbidden on Shabbat. What?
When you spray in the air and it falls on your garment.
If you spray in the air and it falls on your garment, that's not a problem because you're not spraying on the garment. You're spraying it on the what? No, food you can squeeze. If you're eating food, you can squeeze. You can smear peanut butter on challah. It's a good question, but you can smear those things, yeah. Food you're allowed to smear. Or for instance, if somebody wants to use hairspray on Shabbos, okay? Now hairspray, well basically the purpose of hairspray, men should know of that, but the hairspray is, you comb up the hair, brush up the hair, and then when you spray the hairspray, it keeps it into place. Okay? That's what it's supposed to do. So then it's a shaila and halacha, what's called baina. You're building. So the hairspray was not allowed to be used on Shabbos or Yom Tov because of baina. So again, the actual spraying itself is not an issue, it's just that other things might come out of it that might be an issue. Or, we learned already, if you have topping. What? You spray on top of ice cream and cake? Whipped cream. Oh, thank you. Whipped cream is a problem squeezing it out of the container, not because it's a problem squeezing it out of the container, but because when it comes out of the container, it comes out in the design. It's not, thank you. It comes out in the design, so because it comes out in the design, that's called color, writing on Shabbos or...
You don't want it.
It doesn't matter. It's the psikreshi, you're still doing it.
So if you break the tip?
If you break the tip, then it's not a problem, but then it doesn't come out. It comes out as liquid. Try it. For homework, next time try it, and you'll come back and you report what happened. But the fact is, if you cut off the tip, then it comes off mamash in a liquid. It doesn't even come out in a cream. It comes out in a liquid. Hair gel you can't use either. Okay. Now, part of the mlach of schita is dealing with ice. Melting ice, making ice, and all those things on Shabbos. Now, to crush snow or ice with your hands is forbidden on Shabbos. Okay? So let's say you want to cool off your hands. So you take an ice cube out of the freezer and you go like this in your hands. That you're not allowed to do. It's part of the mefarik, it's part of the mloch of whatever, it's still not allowed. Dissolving ice cubes is like this. According to halacha, it's a machlekes about this. The halacha is though that I could put ice cubes in an empty container even though the ice cubes will melt in the container. And then what might be the question of it? It's called merlit. Now you're creating water from ice. You had ice, and now you're making water from it. So even though the ice is melting by itself, but you put the ice there, and it looks like you're creating water from the ice. So even though halachically it's allowed, but the Alter Rebbe holds and other poskim say it's preferred that if you want to put ice, like let's say you have an ice bucket. Yeah, people use ice buckets. You put a nice bucket of ice on the table, and then everybody takes their ice cubes. It would be better halacha. Again, it's allowed to be done, but it's better halachically. The Rebbe writes, if you could, you should be machmer, that you put a little bit of water before you put the ice cubes in. You put a little bit of water at the bottom. Why? Because then when the ice melts, it's not noticeable that you're creating water because there was water there already. You're just adding to the water, but you're not creating the water. So even though halachically it's not called meilid, it's not called creating, but the fact that it looks like you're creating water, even though you're not crushing the thing with your hands. So that would be a way of doing it. So you can dissolve ice cubes. You could dissolve ice cubes and things like that.
If you put the water first and then drop ice into it, there's no problem with that.
What?
If you first pour water and then...
If you pour even a little bit of water into the bowl or ice bucket, whatever you're going to serve, taking ice cubes and putting into your drink for sure is not an issue. To put ice cubes into a glass and right away pour water on it is also not an issue because by the time it melts, it's water there already. But that's the issue.
Walking on the snow.
We'll get to walking on the snow. Walking on the snow is not a problem. Even though you're going to melt the water, but it's not einem miskaven, and it's not a secretion necessarily, and there's a lot of other reasons. That's not an issue either, because you're not making a hole in the ground. I'll give you an example. Okay, when we get to this thing soon, I'll mention.
It's like the snow, when they plow it around the building, is it considered a roof? It's high enough? Like around the parking lot. I had this situation this winter.
I'm not going to say which one of my kids, but when we were in New York once, it was winter. Now in New York, by the way, it snows during the winter, in case you didn't know. There's snow. And the day we left back to LA, it was snowing. One of my kids, that will remain nameless, wanted to bring back snow to LA. And as much as we spoke to them that you can't do it, they were screaming and yelling and threw a tantrum. They want to bring ice back to LA. Snow back to LA. So my mother-in-law, Alaa Shalom, was a very smart lady. She said, no problem. She gave him a plastic bag, and they filled up the water. I have two boys, you know which one it is. They filled up a whole big bag of snow, and they put a tie around it, and they're taking it back to LA. But we didn't put it into the suitcases. They held it for the hand luggage. So we went into this taxi car, whatever, a block away from the house, done, melted. So to answer your question, if you're going to make an Erev, a wall out of snow, how long will that wall last? That's going to last. Unless if you're in Alaska. Okay, but it's not going to last. Even then, it's not so simple that it could be a wall. Okay, serving ice cubes, we said. Chopping ice into liquid, you're not allowed to. Breaking a piece of ice is permissible because you're not melting it. Washing hands in snow is the issue. Okay, next, walking on snow. Okay, that's what we're up to now. You're allowed to walk on snow. Now, for instance, what?
If I Erev breaks in the middle of Shabbat, Beit HaShmoshes is good and then it broke. Does that cancel the Erev?
If it's Beit HaShmoshes, a guy could fix it. A guy could fix it, Beit HaShmoshes.
No, it was good for Beit HaShmoshes, but then...
No, Erev has to be the whole time.
At any point it breaks, it becomes a problem. It's for tzibur.
If you don't have to learn halacha, but if you read the Lubavitch Rebbe's memoirs, there's a whole story with the Alter Rebbe's mother that was learned Torah, and her own husband didn't know that she was learning Torah, because then it was anti to have girls learn Torah. But the lepel, and then they were walking home, all the people in the shtetl. It was not even a shad of a shusarab. They all were walking home with the gemaris and the svarim and the talesim, and all of a sudden somebody came running and said the Erev broke. And nobody, all the gedalim, all the lomdim over there didn't know what to do, and the father turned to his daughter, because the father knew that his daughter, the Alter Rebbe's mother, was learning Torah, Gemara, and Shulchan Aruch. And he said to her, "No, what do you do?" She was the only one that knew what to do. So she told him what to do. Pachas midalid, whatever. And nobody even knew she was right in that. When they came home, they looked it up and they saw that she was right. Okay, so you could know that in Erev, even when it breaks in Shabbos, and the time it breaks, it's no good. What?
But for the tzibur, for the congregation, if we're going, let's say, if it's the Erev Shabbos, would that be...
I'm not saying we're not learning the laws of Erev. I'm just saying it's a possibility that a guy, if you don't tell him to do it, you tell him it's broke, whatever.
Even for a tzibur.
The Tzerich Tzibur is a little bit easier. Okay, so now let me explain something. Like, you're not allowed to plow on Shabbos, right? You're not allowed to plow on Shabbos. So you're not allowed to make holes in the ground. So what happens if somebody is walking on mud or dirt and you make an imprint? Or better yet, somebody is walking with a wheelchair. It is a native, wherever it is. You walk your wheelchair, and the wheels are gonna. If the earth is a little bit soft, the wheelchair is gonna make holes. It's making grooves in the ground, tracks in the ground, right? So that's not an issue on Shabbos because you're not plowing it. You're just pressing the ground. You're not making holes. Okay. So walking on snow is the same thing. You're allowed to walk on snow, even though it's going to melt, but it's indirect. It's gromitz and the miskaven plus gromitz indirect, so it's not an issue. By the way, it's very interesting. Before I came here to shul tonight, a guy called me about going to the mikveh in a swimming pool on Shabbos with a bathing suit. A guy called me if you can go. So I explained to him what we just learned. Anyway, that's building with snow. You're not allowed to. You can't. For instance, on Shabbos, again, it doesn't apply in LA, but you're not allowed to make snowballs on Shabbos. You can't build a snowman on Shabbos, even though it's not permanent because it's going to melt, but still it's temporary building, which would be rabbinically forbidden. So, according to, by the way, there's a big machlekes in halacha if snow is muktzah on Shabbos. According to many opinions, snow is muktzah. Huh? That you can't move it. With your hands, a normal way of moving it. Okay, let me see what there is there.
What's the issue?
What?
What's the issue with spraying perfume?
Spraying perfume on your clothes on Shabbos is a rabbinic prohibition of what's called meilu derecha. You're creating a smell. You're creating a smell that wasn't there before. So therefore, on a garment, it's more permanent than it is in the air or on the body. The smell on the garment will stay longer than on the body because the oils of the body, right, don't make it. But there are opinions that say, in fact, Alter Rebbe in Hilchos Yom Tov says, over there was an interesting thing. Years ago, the Kohanim, before they did Birchat Kohanim, they would put their hands into perfumed water. They actually would do it perfumed water. Don't forget, those days they used to do Birchas Kohanim every day in Eretz Yisrael, right? So they would put their hands into perfumed water, that when they went like this, it would have a good smell to it. So,
Are you allowed to put body spray in your clothes?
no.
Why?
Because.
What about I'm just kidding?
Okay.
I got you.
So now the question is, so over there the Alter Rebbe says that it's better not to do it. He doesn't say it's forbidden. It's forbidden. The Vaad Rabbonim in the world say today you're allowed to put on perfume, but deodorant, if you're putting it on, unless if it's stick deodorant that you can't use because then you're smoothing, you're smearing.
It's the intent, right? If you're doing it to cover up a bad sin, it's like laundry.
No, because then you're not creating a smell. You're just trying to remove a foul smell.
Which that's for me, right? That's like laundry.
No. Anyway, but on garments, it's for sure not allowed. That's according to all opinions. You can't put perfume on garments because then you're actually creating a more permanent smell on the garment. But in the air, or again, but that's only if it's done on Shabbos. For you to before Shabbos, it's not in this shul. What? I didn't say Chabad custom. I said Al Rebbe Nochos Yom Tov says it's better not to.
Why is that?
Because it's still creating a smell. Again, but that's only if you're doing it to create a good smell, not to remove a false smell.